So apparently the queue to be able to learn how to drive is getting longer and longer in the UK, and it's not really showing a lot of signs of slowing down. This is really, for me, because I actually passed my test during the pandemic, I experienced this, but it only got worse and worse since then. I passed in 2020, so it's a good 4 years ago now, and yeah, it's not really getting any better. I know I've got some friends who are learning how to drive at the moment, and it's just taking forever to get a test, and it costs a fortune to learn how to drive in the UK as well. That's something that I hope this article kind of covers in the motoringchronicle.com. Let's have a look. With recent figures showing there are still long waits for driving tests, new research has revealed that even finding a driving instructor might prove to be difficult for many learners. When I was learning, I was the last person on that guy's list, and he actually retired after teaching the current crop, as it were. So it was his last lot. Not because I stressed him out too much for being a bad driver, but because he was getting on a bit, bless him. Absolute legend though. Got me to pass my test, so must be pretty good. The UK's largest pre-17 driving school, Young Driver, questioned 150 driving instructors and found that 2/3, around 67%, currently have a waiting list for on-the-road lessons. Can you have off-the-road lessons? That doesn't sound like very handy lessons. Anyway, let's keep reading. Although the average wait time is two months, oh my goodness me, 7% said learners would be waiting over 6 months to get a lesson with them, and 15% said they had waiting lists of over 4 months. What is going on, man? There must be a shortage of driving instructors. There has to be. When asked about the main reasons for wait times, 70% of instructors said the lack of a driving test availability was leaving learners in limbo for longer, meaning others were unable to start their learning to drive journey. So yeah, not enough testers, as it were. Over half, 56%, said that things had never returned to post-COVID normal levels. Normal post-COVID, I should say, sorry. Over 1 in 4, 27%, said there was a lack of driving instructors, and 1 in 5, 20%, felt the issues lay with youngsters needing more lessons to be able to pass their test. Don't go blaming us kids, alright? You know, they're trying their best. These kids are trying their best. Trust me, learning how to drive in the UK is tough. And the worst thing about it, and let's be real here, this is something that every instructor will tell you, nobody drives like they drive in their actual test after they pass. You drive like an absolute tool, an absolute weapon when you have to do your driving test. Nobody does that when they actually pass because, nobody, it's like anything. It's like anything, you don't really follow that on. Young Driver has experienced a surge in bookings this year in 2024 as parents look to get their youngsters learning to drive before they reach their 17th birthday, with over 50,000 lessons being delivered in the first 7 months of 24, an increase of 16% on 23. Children as young as 10 can learn in dual control cars with 10. Wow, okay, that's something I didn't know. With government-approved instructors, they can learn the basics of changing gears, steering and controlling the vehicle on private properties and venues across the country. All makes ways to make money, I guess. Over 1.4 million lessons have been given since the scheme launched in 2009, and research shows early driver tuition can also dramatically reduce the accident rate of newly qualified drivers. Yeah, so, oh my goodness me, that is incredible. So my personal advice, my unlicensed advice, but experience, because, I've learned how to drive. I've known 4 years now. My personal advice to people struggling to get a driving lesson, honestly, keep trying, keep doing your best, get on these waiting lists. But what I would say is that if you're at work or you're at school, depending on where you are, basically, just ask some people that you know how they passed, who they went to. And more often than not, if you go for something that's not like a national franchise, like Bill Plant, I see loads of those dudes going around where I live. If they're an independent one, you're more likely to get in with them. And to be honest with you as well, probably going to be better. These guys and girls that go with these franchises, in my experience, from what I have heard, I've never gone one personally, but from what I have heard, they're a bit too much by the book. They'll basically do the bare minimum to let you know how to pass, but they won't really teach you how to drive, if that makes sense. They'll just tell you how to pass the test, which I get is handy, but at the same time, it's not really practical. You won't be a great driver when you pass, and you're just going to get eaten alive on the roads. If you live in Huddersfield like I do, the drivers around here do not take any prisoners whatsoever. You'll experience some things learning around here, and then after you pass as well, then that's when the real fun happens. But yeah, basically everything is getting worse. There's not enough instructors, there's not enough testers, and yeah, unfortunately, kids aren't learning how to drive as a result, even though the waiting lists are massive. So, real shame. Hope it improves soon, but it's getting worse if anything. So, with that optimistic take, check out our other videos on the motoringchronicle.com to see much more positive takes than this on the whole, on my views of motoring at the moment in the UK and beyond.